morning. Parking spot overnight was fine. Depressive episode ongoing. I don't feel quite so sluggish today, I guess. At least so far. But came down to the lake just pre-dawn because the place I was parked was likely to get a little bit busy fairly early in the morning. It was a little bit of a denser area than I usually try and stay at, so just to avoid being spotted climbing in and out of the back, giving away the game that I slept there last night, I drove down here pre-dawn. No drama in the sunrise this morning though. Just there's no clouds in the sky at all. It's going to be a very clear day by the looks of things, which is good for the solar panel because I'm starting to have power issues because I haven't been able to get to a caravan park this week. Turns out there's a big horse race and shit going on in Victoria, so long weekend, a lot of people on family vacations and stuff, which is why all the caravan parks are booked out. There was one place not too far away that I could have stayed at tonight just to get a restful, nice site to sleep and recharge all my shit and my big power bank and everything. But they've enforced a minimum 2-night stay. So that sucks. So anyway, I was editing the photos I tried to take of the sunrise this morning, and couldn't stand the thought of them in colour. Like in general, I enjoy black and white photography because I love highlighting the tonality. Something most people don't sort of process when they just look at the world around them. They see the colours and shadows and stuff, but I never really process tonality. So I like highlighting that by dropping photos into black and white. I find it very aesthetically pleasing a lot of the time. But this morning, you don't really, you don't often usually want a sunrise in black and white, because the whole point of a sunrise is the glorious colours we get as the sun crests the horizon. But I think it's the depression creeping in at the edges that I couldn't stand anything I tried to do with colours this morning. Seems cliche, but depression draining the colour from your world. But some cliches are cliches for a reason. I can't stand the thought of breakfast this morning, but I'm so hungry. Not sure what today's going to hold. I'm so sick of existing like this. I think today marks officially 2 months, being the 2nd of November. And it was the 2nd of September when I my last day in the place in Sydney, when I drove out of Sydney. That's the mood we're starting with today. Now I have to force myself to eat something, because this repellent is yet another McDonald's breakfast sounds. It is preferable to feeling hungry. Right, so the other issue with being knocked out of my routine, or the part of my routine that includes a weekly stay at the caravan park for a day off, day to unwind, day to recharge all my big battery stuff, is I'm almost out of water. Pulled around to a local dog park expecting them to have a water fountain there, which they did, but the fill tap for like water bottles and stuff, like not the fountain bit you drink out of or the bit for the dogs, but the bit that's supposed to be for water bottles. Couldn't fit that in it, which is frustrating because the last time I had to use one of those to fill up my water, it worked fine. So that drag of water I've got left there, and this is that's all the water I have for the moment. And well, that's going to have to go refill this again. So that's a mild annoyance, mild inconvenience. But yeah, just another one of those little vulnerabilities that I don't bring up much, but worrying about how much water I've got with me has been one of those constant low-level anxieties. I mean, you know, I'm in the van, so going to get water is you know, not the biggest challenge ever. It's not like I'm out in the outback somewhere and have to dig for it. But the days are getting hotter. I nearly got myself into a heat stroke situation yesterday. I don't remember whether I mentioned that in the video. I did several takes of that last bit, just trying to communicate effectively. But at least one of them mentioned that I fell asleep in the back of the van at one point. And yeah, I woke up in a literal cold sweat because I was heading towards heat stroke. So yeah, water is kind of important. Staying hydrated is important. Unfortunately, none of the dogs at the dog park, if you're wondering, wanted to come up and play with me. I did try to beckon a few over to play, but there were too many other dogs there simultaneously. They were all far too interested in playing with each other than some rando dude who just walked in to fill up his water bottle. I think the actual depression itself is easing up a bit. I don't feel quite so hopeless and doomed today. I mean, I'm not feeling great. I don't know if you can pick up on the vibe I'm putting out, but I'm really not good. But compared to yesterday, better, all things being relative. I am, however, absolutely in autistic burnout. Or very, very close to it. Just the rumbles. I've got so little in the tank right now to process shit. And I really want to just curl up and take a nap, but I can't because it's just too hot. And I don't want to get heat stroke. There is a street nearby with a bunch of trees where you can park in the shade, but I'm learning the locals are a bit wise to that. No shock. Both yesterday and today, in the you know, during the hottest part of the day, between 11 and 4, all those car parks are hotly contested. So yeah, I can't even find anywhere to park in the shade right now. I really wish I could take it. I wish a lot of things. Wishing doesn't help. But I do have an inspection tomorrow for another place. It's another one a little outside my comfort, where as far as the budget goes, but if it works, it works. And there's another place on Wednesday as well. Tuesday might be a bit of an issue because Tuesday is a public holiday. Thank you, by the way, to the person who donated a very generous amount, hoping to pay for a night's stay in a hotel or a motel or something. Unfortunately, the secondary problem with that right now, as much as I really need somewhere to stay, is because it is Melbourne Cup weekend, big horse racing carnival, biggest in Australia, biggest in the Southern Hemisphere. It's a pretty big deal, and it happens in this state. So, or anywhere even close to Melbourne right now, all the places are booked up. So Baby swans doop 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 doop. Baby swans doop 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 doop. Or, cygnets. Which is always struck me as a weird word. What does the word cygnet have to do with swans? Shouldn't there be swanlets? We call little baby ducks ducklings. Alright, day is drawing to a close, and it's been another day where I have done nothing, accomplished nothing, besides dragging myself through the day. And another thoughtless comment, which, I should be letting a lot more of these roll off my back, but when you're in a depressive episode, stuff like that cuts a little deeper, sticks in your head a little longer, and you start ruminating on it. But this comment said, in reaction to me saying something similar yesterday when I said, I did nothing all day. I just sat around in the van, staring into the nothingness, scrolling TikTok or napping. And the commenter was like, man, it's a luxury. I would love to have a day where I could just do nothing. And I get it. I get that reaction. Because, we all love a day off. But I need to make it clear, when you're in a depressive episode and you exist throughout a day and all you do is sit there, that's not a day off. That's not a chill day of relaxation. That is a screaming nightmare, achingly long day it feels like it will never fucking end, and you are stuck with nothing but the feeling of worthlessness, with cycling rumination, just thoughts bouncing continuously on loops inside your head. And more often than not, these are harmful, destructive, dangerous little loops you get stuck in, and all they do is drive you further down. And breaking free of that is just a Herculean task. Occasionally you can even have a giggle, because again, clinical depression is not the same as being a bit sad. For me, my depressive episodes are usually pretty mopey, let's say. But for some people, the mood is fine. And even for me, sometimes my mood is sort of middling, or even a relatively elevated mood. I can enjoy things and laugh. But the physical depression, the rumination, and the mental depression of not being able to think properly or clearly, that's all still there. It's a complex thing. All right. So again, not just feeling a bit sad for a while. It's a very distinct creature. So when someone comes along and says, oh man, I would love to have a day like that where I could just do nothing. How relaxing. It's not relaxing. It's not even slightly relaxing. It is in fact filled with anxiety and stress and all your cortisol and all your stress hormones frequently spike, because you're much easier upset. Your thoughts can spiral into self-destructive territory very quickly and very easily. It's not a relaxing day off. It's not an excuse to just lie around. I would love to be in a position to make that choice, because that means, I have a choice. on how to spend my day. I am not choosing to sit around all day. I am resorting to it because I do not have the capacity. I don't have the mental energy. I don't have the physical energy. I don't have the ability to plan, execute, make healthy choices. So it is not a choice. It is just what happens when this medical condition, when this mental health issue happens to me, and people like me. And like I said, I would love it if it was truly a day off, because then I could do things. I could enjoy watching some Star Trek. I could play some video games. I could read. I could listen to, music. But I can't really do any of that when I'm like this, because too often that kind of stimulation can drive to upset me more. I talked in yesterday's video how some stupid fucking 30 to 90 second long TikTok videos about pet rescues would crush me so hard I was weeping for 15-20 minutes, unable to control the regulation of my emotions and the intensity. That's not fun. And that emotional regulation stuff is part of the autism thing as well, and it compounds with the bipolar depression issues. I often say, that combination when they team up, and you're just in that perfect recipe, it makes everything so much worse. So yeah, the mood has continued to be fairly flat today. I haven't crashed out or anything like I did yesterday. But yeah, just focusing on anything has been incredibly hard. I've been a little extra sensitive to sensory input as well. It's been a very hot day, so I've had to sit with the windows down or the door open just so there's a breeze through here so I don't sort of sweat myself to death. And that's let extra noise in to the cabin. So that's been a little trickier to deal with. Which brings me to, I want to share with you a little trick that a lot of people with autism and ADHD, for that matter, a little brain hack, and it's sour candy. You might find, if you have autistic people or ADHD people or ADHD people with a combination of the two, have a particular affinity for sour candy, or for something else that tastes particularly, especially sweet or especially sour, something outside of usual. And so stuff like this, Sour Patch Kids, which start off really, really sour, and then you get little jelly baby inside, which is sweet. You can, or some of us can, use this to sort of shortcut the sensory input a little bit, because it is so specific and intense, and ideally pleasurable. It can sort of flood out the other stuff for a moment. I'm not talking very long, but it can be just enough for you to be able to get a better grip on things. And it could be enough to even steer you away from a meltdown or a crash out or a shutdown or some sort of sensory overload issue. So yeah, I've just been to the supermarket to treat myself to a bag of these, which I think I'll save until I'm settling down tonight. So I might have half a chance of drifting off without spiraling into anxiety too severely, because I am in severe sleep debt at the moment, because napping until you almost get heat stroke is not a very restful sleep. I need proper REM sleep. hopefully I get a chance to get it sometime soon, because if I don't, things are going to get much worse. For those who've also noticed in this clip in particular, Jesus Christ, I'm stammering. That's an anxiety response as well. That's an autistic thing. When I was undiagnosed as a kid, I was even put into a speech therapy thing for like a term when I was in grade 1 or something, I think. Because the teacher would notice me stammering and said, "Oh, okay, we'll help this kid." And sent me to a special, they had a speech therapist or some sort of specialist that would come to the school, or visit a sequence of schools. It wasn't just our school. But yeah, I went into a speech therapy class for that. But here's the thing: the speech therapy, the room that happened in was quiet because it was sound treated, because that's also where they did hearing tests and things. Can you hear this tone? So there was this little sound treated room, which means I got very comfortable in that room because the therapist was softly spoken. The room was dead quiet, and that helped solve the auditory overstimulation issue that was probably triggering my stress and anxiety in the classroom, or at least contributing to it. So the stammer went away every time I went into that room. In today's age, there is enough knowledge, enough awareness in the school systems about things like autism, and that might have been one of the earliest clues that would have led me into a diagnosis much, much earlier in my life. But as a tail end Gen Xer, that was not to be the case. Way too much ignorance, so it was never caught. It was just a shrug, I guess. It's not a problem, because he doesn't stammer or stutter when I test him, and so it was just ignored. And I eventually learned to mask that behavior, at least to an extent. I don't bother anymore because it takes just huge amounts of energy and concentration and focus, and it causes a delay or even more delay in my responses, because I already have a processing delay when it comes to conversations. I will, someone will say something, I will hear it, but then it has to process through the autism network, and then I'll respond, which often leads to people talking over me because they think that I'm not about to say something in response, or think I wasn't listening to them, that kind of stuff. So when I try and build a sentence before I say it in an effort to overwrite the stammer, that makes all that even worse, which led to me becoming the quiet kid who rarely spoke. So one little thing just snowballed into a whole series of behavioral changes and masking behavior. But yeah, it is still frustrating not to be able to say a word, and my stammer is relatively minor compared to some people's stutters and stammers for whatever. But I have lost my temper with it a few times on live stream. It's not so bad on YouTube videos where I can do a retake if it gets bad. You can just edit it out. But on live streams, and on particularly stressy days, or a game has started to piss me off, the stomach can get really severe, and I wind up getting frustrated with it. And one of my stims that I really had to try hard to work myself away out of is I used to give myself a sharp slap across the face every time I started stammering to try and, compel the system into functioning for a moment. And that's not a good stim to encourage. That sort of, I mean, it wasn't hard enough to bruise me, but it still was, it could have easily started to spiral into more aggressive stims. You got to keep an eye on that. But yeah, these days it's usually a vocal thing. I'll just swear at myself in frustration. But yeah, that slap and whatnot. A similar theory to gobbling down a fistful of those. It just sort of floods the field for a second, and lets the brain sort of just start resorting from the top instead of being quite so overloaded all at once. So there's your insight into depression and autism and where they start overlapping. Hopefully that was educational. Oh, that was exhausting. Just concentrating enough to get that out was genuinely exhausting. Anyway, I don't think I'm going to have much more to say today, so we'll do the sign off now. Thank you for everyone for displaying all the forms of support. So, PayPal, Patreon, Super Chats, likes, comments, etc. I really do appreciate that. It does make a difference. Yeah. Really hoping I can pull shit together tomorrow because I have that inspection. And I need to be functional for at least that 15 minutes. Bye.